Hey, good evening, welcome to Foreigner in the Philippines. I thought I'd read you a couple of comments. These comments seem to be in extreme, one extreme to another. Not meaning that the comment itself is extreme, but in differing in their viewpoint. Alright, so Frank Shock, I'm sure that he doesn't mind, he's quite willing to have his name up there. Right, so Frank says, do you honestly think that this old German is going to relax on the last leg of life? I hope these good people didn't jump the gun. Okay, Frank. Now, Raymond Harding had an answer to that, and he said, after watching Terence giving Alfred some much needed chill out advice, especially comparing Thailand to Filipinos, there is no match, and Alfred just needs to embrace his new status with an open mind, and he will find all the stress he had previously will all be gone. Filipino women expect love, thoughtfulness and a caring nature, and my experience of 20 years of being married to Filipinos is that most are not swayed by worldly trappings. They are happy to have someone to love, happy washing by hand, happy buying, let me see more, come on, get up, have someone to love, buying packets of Downy and scrubbing the clothes with a brush on the scrubbing board. I bought for my wife a washing machine and it sat idle for most of the time. She complained that it did not get the clothes clean. Relax, Alfred, and go with the flow, and all your stress will go with it. Congratulations and be happy. So, Frank, do we honestly think that this old German, isn't it a shame that we have to say this old German or this old Kraut or this old Brit or this old Yank, and I'm as guilty as anybody, but do we really think that? Does anybody really know when they're going into a relationship? Are there any courses out there? Well, there are a few good books which I've recommended. Did they stop me from making mistakes in the past? No. A lot of the time something magical happens. As I said before, Alfred turned up 5 days ago with a suitcase on a tricycle, and not, as Chris Bartless is so happy to point out, that he is not in such great shape. Well, you know, he's 63 years old and he has led an extremely physical life as a farmer. So yeah, he's got some issues. He's got joint issues, which I've seen great athletes have joint issues. So it's the luck of the draw, isn't it? But he smokes. He hasn't drunk a drop of alcohol in 32 years. So it's good points and bad points. And I don't know, if we are honest, none of us are great at making these decisions. What's the saying? You watch your family as they grow up. If you're lucky enough to have a family that sticks together in long enough for you to grow up in it, and we watch how your father reacts to your mother, and we watch how your mother behaves according to your father. And then, what's the saying? You go out, and if you haven't really been paying attention, you end up marrying your mother. Because that's what you equate being loved to. My parents never showed affection. I think the most affection I ever saw my mother give to my father was that when they were walking home or walking from somewhere, she might link her arm through his. I never saw him show any affection. I was never received any affection. I was never told I was loved. Just kidding. But it was just a matter of life. That I grew up in a working class family in a very poor district of Manchester. First 5 years of my life during the war. And then what? A lot of unemployment, a lot of hardship. I got stories. I got sad stories the same as anybody else, and I try to keep away from those now because it was hard enough living them. Why would I want to relive them? Okay, so do we know what the dynamics are of choosing another person to take a test flight with again? And the reason I say test flight, is it going to be fight or flight? Or is it going to be what most people's marriage is, where you go along and a little bit like they say the flight of an airline pilot goes, 80% of boredom and 20% of adrenaline rush and sheer panic or terror. You go along and you do your best to keep it calm, and if you have received your family training in an atmosphere of frequent arguments, you will actually, without realizing it, you'll be programmed to repeat the same, unless you have realized what was happening, realize what its effect on you was, realize that you don't want that in your life. I know that I went for many years with a particular point of behavior that my father had towards me, of getting a really severe beating, and it wasn't until I got married and had a child of my own and felt temper because I was being disobeyed and heading towards my kid with anger all around me, and seeing in that brief moment of clarity that my kid was afraid of me. And boy, that was a moment of clarity that never left me, and I've realized ever since that we can probably all do with a lesson in handling our anger. On that particular occasion, I remember that I stopped and I picked my boy up and I took him upstairs to his bedroom, and the other 2 kids were there, and I said, "I'm really sorry. Daddy was naughty, Daddy was angry, shouldn't be angry, and I know I frightened you, and I'm sorry." And my daughter came up and she put her hands like this on my cheek and she said, "We have some sweeties now." So, yeah, some great lessons to be learned when we learn to look at ourselves. Our friend Alfred has had a rough time. He's been involved with a woman who, as soon as everything was provided, she left for another man. All Alfred said he wanted when he came here was a good woman who wanted to be loved and wanted to love him, that they would take care of each other, that she need not be the most beautiful woman in the world, but just a good woman who wanted to live a simple life. Do you know, that doesn't seem like an awful lot to ask, and it doesn't seem like an awful high expectation. So, do we know how it's going to go? I think that we're in there on a hope and a prayer. And all of us here are praying that this will work out. And we're doing what we can to help it. Are we jumping the gun, Frank? I hope not. I hope that we're just going with the flow and hoping for the best. You know, a lot of people looked at my marriage to Beth and said, no way, no way. Some call me a dirty old man. Some call me an old fart. Well, I probably am an old fart. I'd like to think that I'm not a dirty old man. I'd like to think that I saw someone who seemed to love me and that I could work with, that might share the same mission as I have of helping, and it was enough to go on. It was enough to actually say, let's try. And that's what we did. And 5 years into a marriage, and we've had our moments. I've wanted to fight, and I've had to fight. I've wanted to flight, and I've come back again. What was the saying? Marriage is something that you have so that it holds you together. If you fall out of love, it holds you together long enough so that you fall back in love again. And that's what happens. So every time that you actually have a real fight, you should be looking at what you can change. This is my belief. You should be looking at what you can change, not what you can get the other person to change, because you're in power over you, but you're not empowered over the other person. So no amount of criticizing, guiding, teaching is going to do it. You are there to learn your own lessons, of which I think most of us have many to go, whether you're in the last leg of your marriage or not. I haven't found Alfred to be someone who is a taker. Sure, he should be better at English. My God, he should be better at English. Even I'm good at English. The guy came over here from Thailand. He speaks Thai. He speaks Thai. He studied Latin, Greek, and English. And if you ask me, he's doing pretty damn good on English. Give him a break. And let's see that if his hope and his wish for a better life, free of stress, of the particular stress that he has lived under in Germany and in Thailand. And let's hope for him that everything works out. God, I wish that that's all that people would hope for me, that everything will work out. Can you do that? For me, I mean, forget Alfred. This is a foreigner in the Philippines. Take care. Bye for now.